Good job, Lily. It was refreshing to see that you've also grown up now and able to read the scriptures. Amazing. What a blessing. For congratulations to you and the parents and the family and the whole congregation. You're raising up children in fear of the Lord. That is very refreshing to see. Is the audio all clear, Ben? Okay. Now, this question asked in view of the epidemics and pandemics and the worldwide global perplexity of nations, and what is the cause, what is the reason, if there is any, and is Bible has anything to say? So I was looking hard at this subject and then found some amazing thing out of book of Amos, where I see a pattern. God gives the judgment. God brings in judgment over the nations, and he brings judgment in different nations for different reasons. And so he establishes a pattern of cause and effect. And we see the effects, and based on the effects, perhaps we can find the probable cause for this from scriptures. So today I will take you through first two chapters of book of Amos. And here God gives like 6 Gentile nations: Syria, Philistines, Tyre, Edom, Ammon, and Moab, and then 2 Israelite nations, Judah and Israel. In fact, the 6 Gentile nations were picked up which surround Israel and directly impact Israel's safety, security, and sovereignty. So God judges these nations, Gentile nations, as well as God also brings eventually judgment on both the nations. So he gives us patterns, and even though we discuss about a specific country called Damascus, or the capital is Damascus, and you have Syria, and Syria is a country in Middle East, and we are not interested just in the physical nation called Syria. We want to establish a pattern. It could be any nation, just not limited to Syria. So in God's view, they're doing something, and then God is bringing in this kind of punishment or judgment on the country. Sometimes the judgment is limited to the leadership, the top cream, or it includes sometimes even the wealthy people, the prominent people, and in few other occasions, it includes the whole nation. But most frequently, the poor and needy are always left out. Unless God tells it otherwise, no man or woman is left. Everybody go into punishment. That is a rare condition I see, but mostly poor and needy are always left out when the judgment is brought. Specific to book of Amos, there are 2 phrases that God repeats. Just want to take time to explore these 2 phrases first. And the first phrase is, the Lord roars. Which animal roars? It is lion. So a lion roars. In fact, lions are very familiar picture for Israelites, because they did not seem to have tigers, but they do have lions. So you have Samson fighting the lion, and you have other instances where the prophet who believed the lies of another prophet, he was killed by a lion. And the lions all around, and people are familiar. When lion roars from its den, everybody knows that there is a danger. The first thing a person does is look at his children, and count them and see everybody is intact. Because the lions roar when they got a prey. And also next thing a person does would be check all the animals. So, and also the other reasons a lion roars is uh, it's a call for the other members of his pride to come back. If you are straying, come back to the den, come back to me. I am the leader. And then, so these are the chief reasons a lion roars and the Lord also roars, and similar things are echoed. So he roars as a warning, and he roars about impending judgment. And then the second phrase that is frequently used in book of Amos is, for 3 transgressions and for 4, I will not stop judgment. So what is this 3 and 4 and for 4? So this is an interesting concept. So this comes to a cup. Let me draw a cup. Now this is cup of God's wrath or God's judgment. Then you have 1, 2, and 3 chief sins. So the cup gets filled up as the sins of the nation progresses. When it comes to 3, the cup is full. And then when they do 4th sin, the cup overflows. And when cup overflows, the judgment begins. So that is the idea. For 3 transgressions and for 4, I will not stop. So let's see patterns if it makes any sense for us to understand and discern the perplexity that is currently going on in the nations of the world. The first nation is Syria, and sometimes God addresses by the capital. For example, if God is prophesying about Great Britain, he might say, I am prophesying against London. So the capital cities, this is a familiar pattern. And today what we are discussing, some of the issues God is more concerned, you are already familiar. It is just a recap. And some others might surprise you. What sometimes God views them very seriously, while the country men and women and the leaders may not think that as that serious to get the judgment. And the statement for the this is the recurring statement. This is Amos chapter 1 verses 2 to 5, but second verse is a repeating thing. It applies to all the nations. And he said, the Lord will roar from Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the habitations of the shepherds shall mourn, and the top of Carmel shall wither. So God is doing something. He is roaring from Zion and uttering his voice from Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the place where God has put his name. And Jesus mentioned that it is also the city of great king. And from Zion and from Jerusalem, the law would go forth. And here the roar or the warning uh, from God is going outward to all these Gentile nations as well as Israelite nations. And then he says, the habitations of the shepherds shall mourn. The shepherds, the teachers, the leaders, and he's addressing somebody. And then on the top of Carmel shall wither. The mountain Carmel is known for its beauty, and on the top of the mountain there is always snow, and it melts and comes down and feeds all the vineyards at the foothills of the Carmel. and then you have best wine in the world produced from those vineyards. So that's where the Carmel. So he says, when he shall issue this roar, the Carmel shall wither. So no more wine, no more good things, grapes, and shepherds shall mourn. So it's the judgment on shepherds also, and the whole nation. So this is the context I have put in all the slides, so that we are aware of the roar. Right now, this roar is going to Damascus, Syria. Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have threshed Gilead with threshing instruments of iron. But I will send a fire into the house of Hazael, which shall devour the palaces of Ben-Hadad. I will also break the bar of Damascus and cut off the inhabitants from the plain of Avon, and him that holds the scepter from the house of Eden, and the people of Syria shall go into captivity unto Kir, said the Lord. So here we have the phrase, for 3 transgressions and for 4, God will not stop. So their cup of God's wrath, God's judgment is full with the first 3 sins, and then the 4th causes it to overflow. And once the judgment is started from God, there is no place for repentance until the whole judgment completely consumes the nation, and he will not turn away punishment. The sin of Damascus and Syria here is interestingly because you have threshed Gilead with the threshing instruments of iron. These Gentile nations were doing evil against the children of Israel and children of Judah, and they were also doing similar things against each other. So they have grown wicked, and they were judged for their wickedness. And you can see the Gentile nations are judged by what they were given. What was given is a minuscule light that God gives to every man that is ever born. And if you steal in America, you would be put behind the bars. But if you go to Spain, this is another country, foreign country. If you start stealing, you would also be put in jail. Then if you go to some other country, Ukraine, and if you try to steal, they would also put you in jail. Why is that? Like, is stealing wrong in this country also? It is. It is universal. Everybody knows stealing is wrong. Everybody knows the murder is wrong. This is a universal light that God has given to the peoples and nations. And every nation is given that light. And based on that light, what they do or fail to do, they would be judged. Now, when we come to Judah and Israel, the standard is different. They are judged at a higher standard, but Gentile nations are also judged at a lower standard, but nevertheless, they are all judged. So what they are doing is, when they capture people, the prisoners of war, and they were making them lie down on their stomachs in a line like this. And then the threshing instruments, which is used to thresh the soil or dirt, that is run over their bodies, the feet, so that their legs are permanently crippled, and they cannot walk, and they cannot feed their families. They cannot even think of rebelling against Syria. So what they were doing is, they were showing cruelty, and they were torturing the prisoners of war. So the prisoners of war are tortured, and then and all the leaders are so twisted in their mind, and they were glorifying what they are doing. Oh wow, we could do these things to our enemies. And many of the country people also gave assent to this cruelty. And that's why God says, I will not hold back, but I will punish this nation. I will send a fire into the house of Hazael. Here is probably king of Syria, and Ben-Hadad, the palaces. The palaces is like top cream. Top cream would be gone. And I will break also the bar of Damascus and cut off the inhabitant from plain of Avon, and him that holds the scepter. So the king also would be gone from house of Eden. This Eden is not the Garden of Eden. They have another place called Eden with pagan worship. And the people of Syria shall go into captivity, into Kir. So this came to accomplishment after about 30 years. The Assyrians would come and conquer Syria, and they would displace all the people. All the people would go into captivity, and the top cream they would devour, and they burn the palaces. So this one comes to fruition. So if somebody coming and burning a nation, and the people are taken captive, that has some sin in God's eyes, and God is primarily God of justice and mercy, and God is concerned about these people who were laid with the stomachs down and their handcuffed, and the and legs are also tied up so that they can't defend, and then you run this threshing instrument on their bodies. So it's cruel in God's eyes. God is thinking about the victims, and he's thinking about the well-being of these victims, and he cannot see, he cannot tolerate this, no matter who does that. So the punishment comes on Syria. So Syria is judged. That's what we see. Let's go to next guy in the list. Gaza, which is also list land of Philistines. Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they carried away captive the whole captivity and delivered them up to Edom. But I will send a fire on the wall of Gaza, and shall devour the palaces thereof. And I will cut off the inhabitants from Ashdod, and him that holds the scepter from Ashkelon. And I will turn mine hand against Ekron, and the remnant of the Philistines shall perish, said the Lord God. So here what they are doing is, Philistines are enemies of Israel, and we have Samson fighting them, and we have David fighting against one of their big giant man. So there is always an enmity, historic enmity between Philistines and Israelites. So they were coming to the borders of Israel, and then they were taking away people captive, and then they're delivering them or selling them away to Edom. So Edom, the worst thing that you can happen is you can be taken captive and sold to Edom. Edom was very notorious for their mining. They have copper mines, and they were constantly in need of slave labor. Why? Because the conditions were so harsh and mining was so difficult. People hardly survived for 3 to 4 years, and they will die, and they need new supply of people. So they were buying the slaves, and then the Philistines took some of the Israelites and perhaps other nations, and they were selling them to Edom. So what they are doing is human trafficking. So human trafficking is a serious sin in God's eyes. So God sends judgment, and they will set on fire the wall of Gaza. The wall is like a fortress of Gaza and shall devour the palaces, all the rich people's home. They would be burnt. And then all the remnant of the Philistines shall perish. They will not be taken captive, but God decimates them because they caused the captive Israelites to be handed over to Edom, and Edom, in Edom's copper mines, these Israelites also perished. So God is delivering justice on behalf of those people that were captive and died in the Edom's copper mines. So the same thing, judgment God brings in on Gaza, that is Philistines' place. Gaza is a code name for Philistines. And so the judgment came for the human trafficking. The third is Tyre. Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus. Tyrus is another word for Tyre. It's a Greek rendering of Tyre. So Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remember not the brotherly covenant. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof. Now we know Tyre is a city state, and they are wealthy, and it is in the midst of the international trade routes. So several trade routes crisscrossed each other, and Tyre is the hub of the activity, and they grew exceedingly rich. And this is a financial beast of those days. So, and they're super rich and super wealthy, and that made them very greedy. In the beginning stages, they have very good relationships with Israel, and even in fact, David and Solomon had treaties with Hiram, the king of Tyre, and they have mutual brotherly agreement that they are not going to invade or go for battle against each other. So relatively peace was lasted for several years, and then they became so greedy that when they got Israelites, they did not even care about the covenant, brotherly covenant they had, but handed them over to Edom. Now, Tyre did not go to Israel's borders and picked up the people. What they were doing is, there are other countries, they were capturing Israelites and waging small battles and bringing them as slaves to the market. The market is Tyre. So they were selling these slaves in the Tyre, and Tyrians did not care about this brotherly covenant. They just let these slaves to be sold and bought by Edom. Edom's agents are there in the market. And if they wanted, they could have stopped this, at least Israelites. We had this covenant, have this covenant in force. You cannot sell Israelites. Edom, stop buying Israelites. We are not going to permit. They did not do that. They just left this slavery and human trafficking go on. And interestingly, they sell it to Edom, the same sin the previous Gaza and Philistines did. And God will send fire on the walls of Tyre, and the wall again is the fortified place, which shall devour the palaces. And this judgment came shortly after Nebuchadnezzar comes, and he lays siege for some 13 years, and they ran out of food, and he destroys and kills lots of people from Tyre. And then what the Tyrians do is, they would build another city into the ocean. So if this is the land, this is land, and then so they take the material from land and they artificially create an island, and then they put like huge walls, about 150 feet tall walls, so that no man, no Nebuchadnezzar can come via the land or via the sea, because ships can come near, but nobody can climb up these walls. So they were well fortified, and again they recovered, and retained or recovered their former glory. And once again, we have financial beast in action, and then they became super wealthy, and they were selling a thing called purple. It was a material that is locally available only in the coasts of this Tyre, and they were super rich, and that greed uh, was again uh, is the cause for God to bring the judgment. So when God said, I will bring judgment, it happened in two times. First by Nebuchadnezzar, and last one, Alexander. When he comes and he waits and puts on a siege, and Tyre thought that none can destroy them. And the another metaphorical name for Tyre is pride. They were so proud of their wealth, of their glory, and of their riches, and of the walls that protected them, and none could touch them. That's what they thought. But Alexander took the ruins, debris out of the old palaces, and he puts them on this on the sea, and progressively builds a road kind of here, and he comes here, and then he destroys the part of the wall and enters, and he kills everybody and sets it on fire. That's what happens to the Tyre. So Tyre is judged, and then Edom. Thus said the Lord. This is finally judgment is coming on Edom, because Edom were buying slaves, right, for different, and they were using the slaves in menial conditions in copper mines. Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with sword. Edom pursued his brother with sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept the wrath forever. Now, who is Edom? Edom are children of Esau, and Esau blames Jacob for all his troubles, even though he sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. And some people have in this mindset, always somebody else is responsible for their difficulties. They never admit their faults, and they never take responsibility for their own mistakes, for their own conditions. Blame others, blame others. And then Esau has a bitterness against Jacob, and he he poisoned all his children, all the generations, with that hatred and with that bitterness. And even though Israelites and Edomites are brothers, and but they did not care, and they often, when Israel in a weaker condition, do not have a stable king, that is, they take opportunity and attack Israel, and they don't have any pity towards Israel brother, and his anger did tear perpetually. There's a perpetual anger, and he kept his wrath forever. But I will send fire upon Teman, which shall devour the palaces of Bosra. So the God is bringing judgment because of your bitterness and your wrath, and you did not care about your brother. So the brotherly love is expected from, God is expecting from them, and they failed in that aspect, and God is going to send fire. And here he limits to the palaces of Bozrah. So the top cream of Edom would be wiped out, but majority of the Edomites might still live. And we don't know who the present country is, but we have a pattern. And if you have brotherly relationship, if you attack your brotherly country, and in modern times, maybe perhaps Britain and United States, there is some kind of brotherliness. So Just I'm opening up the thought. So Edom was judged. Let's go to fifth. Ammon. Uh, Ammonites and Moabites. There are two nations. They came out of two daughters of Lot. They are children of Lot. Even they are distantly related via Abraham to Israelites. And let's see what Ammon did. Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of children of Ammon, and for 4 I will not turn away punishment thereof, because they have ripped up the woman with child of Gilead, that they might enlarge their borders. But I will kindle a fire in the wall of Rabbah, and it shall devour the palaces thereof, with shouting in the day of battle, with a tempest in the day of whirlwind, and their king shall go into captivity, he and his princess together, said the Lord. So here only the royalty and top layer is going to be affected. But interesting thing, what they were doing was ripping up the woman when they are attacking the bordering villages and towns of Israel, and they make sure if they find a pregnant woman, they rip open and kill the child so that the population is under control and Israelites would not grow. And they thought they could wipe out Israel and conquer, and they enlarge their borders. They can expand the borders. That's a very narrow thinking. So there are 2 or 3 things are happening. First is ripping woman with their child. So is that happening anywhere in the world? The woman's womb and child is there. You rip open and kill the child. You have one pattern. And second thing is genocide. Through genocide, by killing all the Israelites, they progressively want to occupy their land. So these 2 sins are pretty serious in God's eyes. So the kings, whoever are advocating, this is limited to the Ammon. So watch out for these abortions and genocide. Then Moab. For thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he burned the bones of the king of Edom to lime. But I will send a fire upon Moab, and it shall devour the palaces of Kiriath, and Moab shall die with tumult, and with shouting, and with sound of the trumpet. And I will cut off judge from the midst of thereof, and will slay the princes thereof, said the Lord. Here the judgment on Moab comes to the top layers of the country, but the poor and majority of people are left. And this is because the sin is practiced by the top leadership of Moab. Their sin is, now we have learned, Edom is a cruel country, and king of Edom they captured in a war. And what they were doing is they killed the king, that is normal in the battles, but their hatred was so intense. They took the body and burnt it, and then they they put extra fuel and burnt his bones also, so that it becomes powder. So they don't want any remains of this king. And that is considered a desecration of a person. You have utter contempt and intense hatred. This is unbridled hatred and contempt for a country or for a person, even though they are enemies. You cannot go to that depth of burning his body, his bones with lime. So this is surprising for me. Like if you harbor, or if your president or prime minister or your congressman, whoever the top leadership, if they have this kind of intense contempt and hatred for their enemies, uh, it is God who watches, and brings these judgments. And here God is not listing out first three sins of these nations. He just gives us the fourth sin that tripped off the cup. So that is how Moab was judged. So watch out if this is happening on the leadership of a country, but people are left. That's what probably happening. This intense contempt and hatred for the political enemies. So they are judged. And now we come to Judah and Israel. These two nations are not judged by the same standards as Gentile countries because they are in covenant relationship with their God Yahweh. Then their obligation is more towards the covenant. So God judges them by the terms and conditions of the covenant. So the nation of Judah is in covenant relationship with God, and they were covenanted people. And let us see what God says. Thus said the Lord, for three transgressions of Judah and for four, I will not turn away punishment thereof, because they have despised the law of the Lord and have not kept the commandments, and their lies caused them to err, after which their fathers have walked. I will send fire upon Judah, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem. So the whole thing is the violation of the covenant, the commandments of God, and their allegiance to God and their faithfulness to the covenant that they have entered with their God Yahweh. So God judges Judah, and eventually Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon comes, and he will devour the palaces of Judah. In fact, he takes away, gouges out the eyes of the king, and takes him as a prisoner, and Zedekiah, and he burns the palace, he burns the temple, he burns the city, and he takes people as captives, but he leaves all the poor and needy to take care of the land. And this judgment comes on Judah. Now, when we come to Israel, not God so far is giving us only fourth sin. First three sins he is not listing out, but he makes an exception to Israel. He gives first three sins and fourth sin, and then he keeps on mentioning or listing out other sins which he is very upset about Israel. Then we come to Israel. So, thus said the Lord, for three transgressions of Israel, and for four, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold righteous for silver and poor for pair of shoes. This is exploitation of poor. They pant after the dust of the earth on head of the poor, and turn aside the way of the meek. So this is another sin. Closely ties up to first, but the righteous man is robbed. The meek, so the head of the poor, and turn aside the way of the righteous. So if somebody with all the difficulties trying to be right with God, they are coming and putting stumbling block before that person. And a man and his father will go unto the same maid to profane my name. These are like sexual perversions. Second sin. Third, and they lay themselves upon the clothes to pledge by every altar, and they drink the wine of the condemned in the house of their God. So what they are doing is they take the clothes of a poor man for a pledge, and then they have to return that in the night, because it is so cold in the night. And that is by law, by the covenant agreement, by the terms and conditions of the Sinai covenant. But they were ignoring their obligations to the covenant, and they would not give the clothes, garments back to that poor man. So he has to sleep in the night in the cold. And while he was suffering in the cold, these guys go into the altar, and this has lots of other meanings. Like, these are pagan altars. They are drinking the wine of the condemned. They were doing various kinds of witchcraft, and perhaps some temple prostitution is going on. So they were indulging themselves while they are exploiting the poor. And this is the fourth sin that trips off. Their cup is full. Their cup is full. 1, 2, 3, full. And this is the fourth sin, and makes it to overflow. And God gives some background why he is upset and how much he is upset. Yet I destroyed the Amorites before them, whose height was like height of cedars, and he was strong as oaks. Yet I destroyed his fruit from above and his roots from beneath. So God decimated Amorites, much stronger than Israelites, and gave that land to Israel. And now Israel is doing same things as which Amorites were doing, and unfaithful to the covenant. And a holy, righteous God cannot stand this. Also, I brought you up, that is Israel, from the land of Egypt, and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of Amorite. I raised up of your sons for prophets, and your young men for Nazarites. So God, in his mercy, he was raising prophets for Israel and warned them, and repent, come back to God. Here, Lord is roaring like from Zion, come back to the den, come back to the pride, come back to your place. I am your holy God, a covenantal God. Come back to the faithfulness. And they have Nazarites. This is a Nazarite vow people can make, and then they shouldn't drink the fruit of any wine, nor should cut their hair. So, but some of them, it's an example of holiness. They take a vow for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, whatever period of their vow. They would be example of chastity and purity. This is a way of reminding rest of the Israelites. And sometimes women also can take up that vow. But what these guys are doing, they gave Nazarites wine to drink. So they might tell them that it is just water or some other drink, and they're cheating them, and so that is what they are doing to the Nazarites, making them to break their vow. That is one thing upsetting God. And then when God in his mercy is sending out prophets, raising them from their own sons, and then they commanded prophets saying, prophesy not, don't teach these things. We are no longer interested in what you say. And sometimes they brand God's prophets as false prophets, and they would take false prophets as God's prophets. So that kind of wickedness God is not able to stand. Behold, I am pressed under you as a cart is pressed that is full of sheaves. God uses a human language. As a cart is pressed under heavy load, God says, I am pressed by your sins. I cannot take it any longer. Therefore, the flight shall perish from the swift, and the strong shall not strengthen his force, neither shall the mighty deliver himself. So God made them swift, and God made them strong and mighty, and as a part of blessing. And then blessing hand of God, when it is withdrawn, you have only physical remains, that you might have lots of muscled body and able to fight, but the mighty will not deliver himself, and the swift shall perish in the flight. So all these strong things you have would be no use if God's hand is not in favor of you. And neither shall he stand that handles the bow, and he that is swift to foot shall not deliver himself, neither shall he that rides the horse shall deliver himself, and he that is courageous among the mighty shall flee away naked in that day when God brings the judgment, and said the Lord. So Israel is judged. We see the patterns of judgment, and sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it is surprising that God takes care of uh, little things. And final conclusions, God says, I have been roaring. So he says significantly important statements here. Let's go through this. Will a lion roar in the forest when he has no prey? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he has taken nothing? So for no reason, God would roar from Zion. There is a valid reason, and he got his prey, and he is about to judge. So that's what he is telling. The roaring is not for fun. Roaring is not without a cause. There is a strong cause for this roar. And verse 5, can a bird fall in a snare upon the earth where there is no gin for him, that is trap? And shall one take up a snare from the earth and have taken nothing? So when you put a snare to catch a bird, you have an expectation of catching that bird, right? And nobody puts a snare trap for a bird and he forgets about that, right? He doesn't care if the bird is caught or not. It is not like that. There is an intention and expectation to catch the bird. Just like a lion, when it cries out, there is a strong motivation and intention. And finally compares these two with his roar. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city and the Lord has not done it? This is the this is the final passage. I want you to think and meditate about this verse. And if there is an evil in a city or a country or a state, and there is distress of the nations, and here, because of coronavirus, our top medical expert, uh, Anthony Fauci, he has one story to tell why this suffering is being caused in our country and other countries. So that is his take, his explanation. And you have President Trump giving yet another explanation why this is happening. And he has his own story. If you go to FDA, Food and Drug Administration, they have their own story why this is happening. So you have several explanations of the perplexity that we are currently seeing, and always men and women have their own explanations, and God also gives an explanation. Sometimes he whispers through in his word, sometimes he roars from Jerusalem, from Zion, and he says his explanation is, if there is an evil in a country or a city and the Lord has not done it, so God is saying, if there is an evil, it is from me. I am the one who brings good as well as evil. So God is claiming ownership for these troubles and for these difficulties. That brings us to the end of the presentation. I'll just leave it for people if they have any comments or disagreements. I can't hear you. Okay. Okay. That's good. We are done then.